listening to Jets Commute.
Don't worry, brother. I suffer from the same shit. I'm just used to it.
Yep.
Hilarious.
June, who you thinking for the coach? Nagy still? You want or no?
That's who I want. Um, I got a feeling. Got a feeling this night. I got a feeling it's gonna be a first timer. It's gonna be a first timer that nobody really wants. I got a feeling that Glenn is going to New Orleans. Um, Ben Johnson's going to Chicago. You already know that Vrabel's going to New England. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy.
Sorry, June. What was that?
Now you good?
I'm trying to get out of here. With hot sauce. Yeah.
Chocolatas.
So, you think the whole Vrabel is it's a no doubter he's going to New England or no?
That's a no doubt.
You
That's a
don't think
no.
Ben Johnson?
No, 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 no.
Where's Ben Johnson gonna go?
Chicago, Chicago or Jacksonville. Definitely.
Yeah.
Vrabel's New England. Period.
And where do you think Cohen's going?
I'm not sure if he gets a job.
Yeah, I think he will. Well, how
Where?
many jobs are open now? Raiders, Jets, Titans. No, not Titans. Raiders, Jets, uh, New England, Jacksonville.
Cowboys.
No, they denied requests for McCarthy. To it's not official yet.
Well, until they re-sign him
Right. They
next
have his
week.
rights till the 14th. You're right. My
Right.
bad.
So as of right now, still has it's still an opening. Um, New Orleans, Chicago,
Oh yeah, New
Jacksonville.
Orleans, Chicago. That's right.
Right.
So there's 6 jobs, right?
Yes. 6 jobs, 2 GM jobs, 6 head coaching jobs, 2 GM jobs.
Yeah. Guys, if you want to come up and speak and not hear June and I and join, please. Ah, you think there's any way the Jets restructure Adams, June?
No, I mean, before you do that, you got to decide whether you want to keep Rodgers or not.
Yep.
Good
Hey,
morning.
Terrence. How are you?
All right. Good morning.
Good morning, my
Hey,
brother.
hey, June. How are you?
I'm doing
We
all
just
right
need,
there,
we,
brother.
we just need Rusty. That's all. Yeah.
That's it.
Then we could get the interview process going.
That's all we need. Where she's at
Terrence.
right
Yes.
now.
Terrence, you
Yeah.
couldn't fucking retire? You remember that
Couldn't retire.
line?
Oh
Angelo.
yeah. Yeah, Angelo. Oh yeah. When they put him in the back seat of when they put him in the trunk. Yeah. It's the whole triumvirate thing. Yeah. But I was looking at Borgonzi's resume, and like to me, I mean, I'm I the Carthon thing. I guess maybe the Titans basically said, hey, you know what? There's somebody out there that maybe. I mean, I guess the whole Will Levis thing just exploded, and I guess they're blame. And also, I think the Vrabel thing. I think they're getting so much. They probably got so much pushback about Vrabel letting Vrabel go the year before that I mean, they didn't give Carthon enough time. I don't think, but now you got a young coach there with his father, and now you got a GM that has. But to me, a resume, and he's done pretty much everything. From like for the Chiefs since 2009. Like he has a pretty impressive resume. Like whether it's like pro player development or college scouting, he seems to be more of the pro player type of guy. So I mean, not that resume matters because how many times have we picked the person that everybody says, oh, this is the person that's going to be the next big GM, like when they said Joe Douglas or whatever, and it didn't work out for us. But now that Tennessee's involved, now but to me, I think there's enough good GM candidates out there that we fully get. It's just I got in late when but six head coaching jobs. Maybe there's another one. I mean, like you said about Allison, but to me, I don't know. I think there are at least what three trends or is whatever. I think there's one of those. Listen, I know they're on uh, where you really want to see your head coach, or you going to do 2 years of Rex Ryan.
You're Terrence in the blender, right?
Yeah, Terrence.
Yeah.
There you go. We could.
Nah, yeah, I'm driving, so it's gonna happen. I'll bounce out and come back. But what I'm saying is like the point is that are we gonna choose Rex Ryan or Brian Greasy? Like there may be a scenario where Woody Johnson, Rex Ryan. I won't like it at all, but like if we get the bottom of the barrel out of this class of candidates or whatever, they may decide Rex Ryan. And frankly, I'm going to take a 2-year vacation from Spaces. I don't want it at all, but that's some of the talk that's some of the shit that they're talking about. That like some of these candidates, like, do you want Josh McCown to be head coach, or would you give Rex Ryan a year and a half before they figure out that the game has passed him by and they get rid of him? It's that's the only thing I'm worried about with so many head coaching jobs. Like, who picks the Jets? And I'm going to drop out and come back so that way I don't go in the blender as much.
Yeah, man.
Nelson,
It's
what do you think it is?
PD, good morning, man. How you
What's
feeling
up? A
today?
little better, thank you.
Oh, listen, I want to ask you guys something.
what's up now?
June, my dude, Yanks in 7, like I always tell you, Yanks in 7.
Ah,
I don't know about this
Listen,
year. It
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
last
yeah,
year.
no,
yeah.
no, I'm just saying that. That's just me and June. That's all. Listen, you think that in this playoff, would there be 2 more coaching vacancies?
No,
Like, let's say with Harbaugh and McDermott, would those guys are safe if they don't get into the Super Bowl?
you know what? That's a great question, and I actually think, I know PD gonna think I'm saying it just because it's Buffalo, but I do think that if Buffalo get bounced out again, it makes no sense to keep him because you just can't get over the hump. You need somebody else.
No,
Like,
June, I'm not gonna. I don't think they're gonna fire McDermott though, especially after the season. But you think they're gonna lose round one, which is wild.
yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
And listen, I don't think Vrabel is a shoe-in for New England, man, until he actually has that press conference.
N-
Isn't he? He's having an interview with, I think, the Raiders and the Bears, right?
Excuse
No,
me?
no, he's having it
Yes. Hold
with the
on.
Raiders.
What's up?
And the Bears.
Hello?
No, I think McCarthy is doing the Bears. It's just New England right now. It's New England and
And the Jets.
no, New England and Jets
Not
and,
even.
and the Raiders. New England Jets and
Oh.
Raiders.
Did somebody else want to speak? I heard somebody jump in, but if not, I mean, you gotta, like you got those two Rooney Rule guys who came out of nowhere that
Right.
New England is basically interviewing.
Mm.
It's like they got that shit right out of
Yeah,
the way.
yeah.
Like to me, I would have been filibustering if I'd be like, why do I want to interview for something that I know I'm not gonna
Exactly.
get? And like
Exactly.
let it linger till February. Like
Exactly.
I
And
said, where's Deion Sanders tweeting out to Robert Kraft about this?
well,
That's what I
wait,
want to know.
Terrence. That's another point too. Mark, I see you came up. Good morning, real quick. The fact that they interviewed Pep Hamilton. I mean, who? Pep Hamilton? No, I mean, I. I'm not dissing the guy, but Pep Hamilton.
By the way, the
Come
Cowboys
on.
denied McCarthy
Yeah.
the interview for the
To
Bears.
yeah, it's Pep Hamilton and Leftwich that got so. New England's cleared to hire somebody now. But I was speaking to someone offline, and they said it's the Jets' fault that they interviewed Vrabel so quick. So New England countered.
But why is that a fault thing? June, you're a
Well,
wild
maybe,
man. You're a
well,
complete
maybe
weird
because they
wild.
rushed. Let me
I,
hear. Hey, Mark, real quick. Mark, you're up here. Mark, what do you think about this whole? Who do you think the Jets should hire? It can't be Rex, Mark.
No, no, no. I think I said that last week. I mean, you can't. This is not. First of all, look. Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Pete.
Mark,
Uh,
how are you?
I'm good. I am in that situation where when you're looking at trying to reboot again, right? And there's still so many questions up in the air. We still don't know who the GM is. And I'm totally against hiring a coach before hiring a GM, but it just looks like Woody's going to continue that, which I think is a dysfunctional way of setting up your organization. But to continue or to answer the question, I don't think Rex Ryan is the answer. He's energetic, he's fun, but look, his tenure was successful initially, and then went by the wayside. We've seen him in other places after the Jets. When he went to the Bills. This is not a guy who um, builds an organization. He was in the right place at the right time. He had some of the right players on defense. Obviously took the Jets to 2 AFC Championship games, and the team was fun. But this is not a guy who I think in today's NFL is attractive. Who else is high? Who else is interviewing him? Nobody. If you tell me Rex Ryan is going to be the new defensive coordinator, I'd be all for that because I think that's what his role is. But I don't see that happening. I don't see the Jets hiring an assistant. I would love. I think Josh McCown would be great, but here's a guy that hasn't even been a coordinator. He's a quarterback's coach. I do have a tremendous amount of respect for him. I do think he's a very good offensive mind. I think he's a really, really good guy. But I don't think the Jets are going to hire a coordinator unless it's Aaron Glenn. I think of all the guys that they could bring in, Aaron Glenn to me, um, just based on what I've read and what I've heard, seems to be the guy that they really want. But again, now Aaron Glenn is another defensive guy. And, do you want to go that route again? I mean, when Saleh was named the coach, a lot of people were very happy about it. Because
Yeah.
Well, this dynamic defensive coordinator who, had this great San Francisco 49er defense and, was such a rah-rah guy. And then when he became head coach, and, for Jet fans of a certain age, that's exactly what happened with Joe Walton.
Wow.
Joe
Yeah.
Walton was the offensive coordinator for the Jets and for Walt Michaels. He always had his cap on backwards, highly energetic guy. And then he becomes the head coach and turns into Richard Nixon. Right. So it's, I'm not saying you can't hire a coordinator, even a highly effective coordinator. All I'm saying is, and this is where I don't always agree with Joe Beningo, my buddy, but in this case, I think, when it comes to, I don't agree with the people he wants to hire, but, Joe thinks, and Joe has said that he believes that the Jets are better off hiring a head coach who's had some success, a head coach who's had some experience being a head coach. And I think that changes the expectation. I think that changes the direction. And I think that, and I think I said this maybe last year or maybe at the beginning of this year. I think they should talk to Pete Carroll. I know he's 73 years old, but
Me too, Mark.
he's a
He
young
was on
70.
my list.
Plus he's a,
Mark, can I ask you something real quick before Mark, do you think that this job is a desirable job?
um,
You're not a Jet fan,
I don't
so
think, yeah, but I don't think it's as awful. Yeah, but I talk to people, and the NFL only has a certain amount of jobs, and maybe for someone who is a very highly, somebody like Vrabel, it might not be as desirable as going back to New England, right? But I don't think that a lot of these coaching candidates will organizations or come from organization, where they're not going to move up. Why wouldn't the Jets? There's a lot of pressure. It's like players. It's like, do players want to come to the Jets? Well, if you're going to pay them and they're built that way, that's the kind of guy you want anyway. Anybody who doesn't want to come here, anybody who doesn't think that it's a job, they shouldn't be hired. Did we lose? Did we lose you guys?
Now we hear you, Mark.
I thought we lost too, but I'm here.
No, no. That's what I'm saying. It's like, if somebody out there who there's somebody out there that is a solid candidate but doesn't want to come to the Jets because of ownership. That's everywhere. There are like, let's put it this way. There's maybe 5 organizations where the owner is not involved in every aspect of the situation, right? I mean, even Arthur Blank almost derailed, who I think is a great owner, almost derailed the organization when he decided he wanted Deshaun Watson, right? So, I mean, every single organization in football has a ownership problem. I think New York is one of those situations where, yeah, there's dysfunction, yeah, but it's also an opportunity, right? So I would be reluctant to even bring in someone who would be, oh, what's the ownership situation like? That's not a guy you should be interviewing. I also think Brian Flores is a guy that I would look at. I know that Ryan Fitzpatrick has come out and said some things about Flores, calling him a dictator, saying that none of his coaches would give him a reference. And I'm not really a big fan of. I loved him when he was a player, but I mean, really, I'm going to take my talking points and to make my organizational decisions based on what Ryan Fitzpatrick has to say. I don't think so. So,
Yeah.
Flora, I mean, look, if he is a dictator, good. Maybe that's what they need, right?
What's his Madden rating?
um, I kind of think that was one of those. And again, I don't know Diana Rossini. I don't know her. I can't speak to whether or not that story was completely legit, but I think what they took was, I think I think something that may have been said, maybe perhaps even in jest, was taken to a whole nother level because Joe Douglas was probably the primary source. And I think that when you have a primary source who is bitter about being fired and bitter about his treatment, and whether it's justified or not, doesn't go on the record to say that because he's worried about getting another job, maybe he should just be quiet, you know?
Mark, the
So
teams like the Chiefs and Bills, where the Jets are interviewing both GM and coaching, you like that?
I don't.
You don't like the pairing?
I don't. No, I don't. I think you should hire a GM because he's the most important guy because he's gonna be the one that's gonna build your organization, and then you hire a coach that the GM believes that he thinks is the best to lead the team. And maybe that's old school. Maybe I'm an old head. Maybe I'm too much of a traditionalist or a conservative, but that's the way you build a football team. That's just the way I think it should be done. And I'm sure there's examples of where they hired the coach first and then brought in the GM. I'm sure there's examples of where it worked and where it didn't. But no matter what, that coach and GM have to be on the same page. So why would you hire them? Why would you hire them in such a haphazard way? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm the editor in chief of my newspaper. My publisher doesn't hire people and then say, oh, yeah, this guy is going to be your top assistant. Oh, this person's going to be your reporter. Oh, no, it doesn't work that way. I'm the editor in chief. I hire the people. You know what I'm saying? I run the day to day.
Totally.
And that's the way you have to run an organization.
Yep.
I got to split, guys, but I'll be listening. And maybe I'll be able to hop back on in about 10 minutes.
All right, Mark. Thanks for hopping in. Appreciate you. Dale, I didn't know if you had a question for Mark, but what's up?
Good morning, Petey.
What's up, man?
I just think if I was in this situation, I would look at it from this perspective. Everything that I'm going to say about the coach and GM that I want, what would I say 2 years from now if it absolutely blows up in my face and I got to do this over again? What were the red flags that we knew were going to be a problem? What was the thing that we should have known because everybody said it? So you're talking about a Brian Flores. You got a former player like Fitzpatrick who really does play the game right, doesn't really throw anyone under the bus. Kind of been a godsend to every franchise he goes to in the meaning in which they bring him in. Never badmouths anybody, yet he has some bad things to say about a guy. You don't go anywhere near that fucking guy. Because that's the thing in 2 years, you can say, oh, remember what Fitzpatrick said? That this guy was a douchebag? Like, dude, any drama attached to anyone go away. And I couldn't disagree with that guy more. And in a way, I felt like he contradicted himself majorly. If you want the coach and the GM to be on the same page, wouldn't you not want two guys that are already working together that have the same vision? That have the same pedigree together? Like, why would you?
Yeah, Dale, I don't know if I'm not speaking for Mark. I don't know if he meant, he's got to pick what if he doesn't want the guy, from there? What if he has somebody in mind? I'm just saying, I'm not speaking for him, but that's how I hear what you're saying, but maybe that's the other thing he was thinking. I don't know, but go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, if you bring in let's just say you were to, now it doesn't always work that you pick guys from a franchise because none of the Patriots guys really necessarily work,
Right.
even though I think the early ones were good coaches like Mangini.
Yeah. What about
That?
well, the Parcells tree was good, but they went to New England,
Well,
and I know that was the early days though.
Well, I think the first group of guys that come with a guy. So, for instance, when a young coach gets his job,
Mm-hmm.
he's pulling together a lot of talent that is at his age group in his thing. So I think that first group for any coaching staff that succeeds is usually pretty good.
Yeah.
That being said, though, I do think, like, ultimately at the end of the day, I don't know the right answer. I'm not saying the Bills staff, the Chiefs staff's the way to go. What I am saying, though, is I would get the guy that has the cleanest route.
Well, Dale,
That has
you
the
know what I
least
would
amount
do?
of problems.
Dale, real quick, I said this earlier before the year ended. He's not my first choice, but I would take Joe Brady away. You know why? It makes you guys weaker, in my opinion. Doesn't mean you're going to stink. You know, you're still the division favorite, but you're plugging a guy away from that staff, and then maybe he takes an offensive line coach and promotes him. You know, maybe you know what I mean. So
Well, I think
that's
it
what
goes,
I would do.
PD. I think extremely high of Brady. I think the only thing I'd question is his age. Is he ready to be a head coach? And I don't
Yeah,
want to see him leave, but I also wouldn't make my coaching decision based on anything or anyone else. It'd be
fair.
strictly what makes me the strongest, who's got the best plan for a future, and how are we going to build this team and move forward. And whoever that is, I think any owner, unless the guys give you true signs in the beginning is a complete flop, you got to give this guy a few years and you got to restart the team for this guy. Let him keep whatever players in year one and let him make the team in his image the next 2 years.
Good points, Dale. Office. Good morning.
Morning, Petey. Morning, June. Morning,
Morning,
everybody.
brother.
Those are good points, Dale. I kind of agree with you a little bit too, my friend. I think, there is definitely some cohesion needed. You know what I mean? Kind of that same vision, kind of that same how do we climb the ladder. But, I had said it before. I think the Jets are in a really good spot, to be honest with you. I think it's going to require just a little bit of additional patience, but their fans have been patient. And I think you guys can find the right people, the right mix. But I kind of agree with Dale. It might take a year or so, right? Because next year you're really gonna, the season is gonna be based on what did this staff do, and hopefully the results are looking good for you. I mean, would that offensive coordinator that got fired from Cleveland be an option as an offensive coordinator? I know
No,
this year went
you don't want to
shitty,
go
but the
nowhere.
last year was great.
Trust
Nah,
Bills fans, you
Dorsey.
want nothing to do with Dorsey, just like we told you about fucking Hackett.
And I'm
You
just
want
asking. I
nothing to do with
appreciate that.
Dorsey.
Mark, are you here? Do you want to rebuttal Dale?
I don't want to rebuttal anyone,
All right.
because let's put it this way. I was convinced when um, when Doug Peterson was available and Zach Wilson was the quarterback for the Jets, or it's supposed to be the quarterback of the future. I wrote an article. I don't know how many times, I wanted Doug Peterson to be the coach of the Jets because I thought he would be perfect for developing Zach Wilson. And, so Jacksonville thought that was a good idea for Trevor Lawrence. Look how that turned out. And it has not, I still think Trevor Lawrence is a hell of a quarterback. And in the right situation, you know, he could be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. But, just because we think or we surmise or the experts, quote unquote, think someone should be hired, obviously, when you're a fan of a team, and I'm going through it now, I love Raheem Morris as a guy. But is he the reason that that the Falcons had a terrible season? I mean, you can point to a lot of different examples as to why that is. But in the locker room, players love him. So it's always that balance. What do the players think about a coach? And is he an X's and O's guy? And that's the balance that you have to find when you're hiring a coach. You have to find that, and who's that coach going to bring in as the offensive and defensive coordinator? And I don't know if people realize that. I'm sure some of you realize this. The head coach is not nearly as important to a team as those offensive and defensive coordinators. Because even if you're Bill Belichick, at the end of the day, it's the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator that are coming up with the game plans on either side of the ball. And if you could be the best head coach and we've seen it. How many times have we seen a good head coach get saddled with a terrible offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, and and have to be asked like, oh, I'm taking over the play calling duties, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. If you don't hire the right people in those spots, it it just the holes of the head coach then become glaring, because the head coach is really, at the end of the day, a guy who talks to the media after games, a guy who motivates players, a guy who, they're judged by the coaching tree, judged by, you know, um, the way that he deals with the media, the way he deals with the front office, the way that he deals with the owner, the way that he deals with the fans, the way he speaks to the fans. You know, what a head coach used to be and what he is now is so different from what it was, like, let's say, even 10, 15 years ago, right? So there's so many things that come into play, and that's why that's why you hire a service. That's why you hire, a recruiting arm to, reach out to these guys. That's why it's so important, especially in New York, maybe more so than anywhere. you know you have to have a coach who's honest, a coach who doesn't try to coach speak. That's why I think, and I love Deion Sanders, right? But he would be a disaster, an absolute disaster. The media wouldn't put up with him. The fans would turn on him in a second. Um, he's just, that's not a guy who's built for this town. Sorry, just not. He couldn't handle Carlton Fisk getting on him when he was with the
Mark, do
Yankees.
you think the New York fans would turn on Dion and not
Oh,
embrace him?
oh,
Absolutely.
Oh
oh,
yeah, they would
give him
turn on
a
him
game.
in a heartbeat.
They might give him a game or two, but the minute he came out and started, like, after a loss, because look, whoever comes to the Jets are going to lose a lot of games next year. They just are. Next year for the Jets is all about getting the right GM and having a great draft. Does anybody disagree with that?
I
No, We're,
agree.
we're, we're, we're picking seventh, so you're not getting a quarterback. So what do we do for a bridge quarterback?
Well, I mean, look, there's a lot of places you can go for a bridge quarterback. I mean, um, if Rodgers doesn't come back, and no one knows what's
Right.
going to happen there, right? Um, I think that the Jets have to be focused on building that line of scrimmage. Building that line of scrimmage, being smart in the draft, getting not just players who can start right away, but players who are built for the long term. Not flash in the pan guys.
Right.
Uh,
Basically, what you have on both sides of the ball are a bunch of stars that are undisciplined.
yeah,
Unlike years ago, I'm a Jet fan in 53 years. You need a coach that's going to take a player, no matter who he is, grab him by the face mask, and sit him down.
yeah, that's football. Absolutely, totally agree.
How do you justify 16 penalties?
You can't. You can't.
Well,
No discipline.
Mark, is that where Brian Flores comes into play for you?
Look, I have always liked Brian Flores. I think he was done dirty in Miami. I don't like the way he dealt with it. I don't like the way he dealt with it. But at the end of the day, are we more concerned about the PR of Brian Flores, or do we want a guy who's going to come in and take this organization, like I'm sorry, who was that just speaking?
Carmelo.
Carmelo
Or
said.
Carmen. Carmen.
Carmen.
Sorry,
Carmen just
Carmen.
said, and Carm just
It's okay.
said, grab him by the face mask and say, let's go. That's what you need. That's what we thought Salah was going to be, right? That's who we all thought Salah was going to be. He wasn't that guy.
I'll say this, Mark. Philosophically, I agree with you on the line of scrimmage drafting, but this is just my opinion. I don't think this draft provides you first round talent at the line of scrimmage. I
Oh, I'm
just
not saying you. I'm not. Look, and I'm sorry. I should have been more specific as to what I was talking about.
We're lucky we have fashion now.
No, no, no. What I'm talking about. I'm not saying you pick a lineman. I'm saying you concentrate your draft on building from the line out, but that doesn't mean obviously you want the best player available. You want to get the guy who's going to be, whether it's a corner, whether it's a run, whether it's a middle linebacker, whatever. I'm not a draft expert.
What do you think of the tight end from Penn State?
I think that would be a great move. I think I've
If
always
if he's there,
I believe if he's there, I would take him. Why not? I mean,
Yeah,
tight
I
ends
don't.
such an important part of an offense, especially if you get the right one. We saw what the Falcons did, and with Pitts, and his first year he was fantastic. And it wasn't until Penix got the job that they started using him again. Um, and he signed for next year. So all these people talking about they're going to trade him or cut him, it's not happening. Pitts is going to be back. But you see Brett Bowers and what he did in L.A. with a terrible quarterback, tandem. A really good tight end can change the facet of your offense and open things up. The Jets have some really good piece players on offense.
yes, they do. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
So
guys, I don't know who's next, but just jump in after Mark's done. Sorry, Mark.
no, it's all good. If people want to ask questions, I'll sit and listen,
Okay, Mark.
whatever. It's all good.
I office, go ahead.
PD, I just think that if I don't know if it was my responsibility and I'm about to hire a coach and bring in a GM, the first thing I'm trying to hear is culture. Like any one of these coaches, X's and O's scheme wise, are getting poached because they got a good scheme. I think the thing that separates a team in your position is what are you going to do for our culture here? Because to me, if you look at the teams that are perennial in the playoffs, or for instance, I think the Lions are a great example. I,
That's
I
right.
I don't think in any case was their head coach considered near the top 10 available coaches when it came to X's and O's and scheme and whatever he wanted to do. But his message was culture. I'm gonna make this place into something that it's hasn't ever been. I'm gonna make the reputation of what it means to be a player here. And I ultimately believe, like speaking as a Bills fan, anyone can say what they want about McDermott, but that's what he did. And he never wavered from that being a thing. And every player that we bring in is a specific kind of player, so much so that I think that rules the roost on who they choose and who's going to be a part of this team more than talent per se. They look at a guy's potential and what kind of person he is. And if it was me and I'm looking at the Jets and I'm saying, what's a problem this franchise has? To me, it's culture. And
It,
you can't rely on one player to come in
right. You're
and be
right.
the thing that changes that for you. It's got to be everybody in that building's on the same page that this is what we are from now on.
They have a losing culture.
Yeah. And,
That's what Aaron Rodgers was supposed to change,
yep.
but obviously,
And to me, this goes back to what I was trying to say earlier about Joe Brady. This is the question about Joe. This the question. Joe. Now, of course, Joe Brady came from, obviously what he's doing right now. He's been under Buffalo for now about a couple, for 3 years, so he knows the organization about winning culture. But can he manage a locker room? Can he be? Matt Campbell, Brian Flores, Mike Vrabel, like these coaches that a lot of guys want. These guys are cultural changers. These are guys that are going to come in there and they're going to, and whatever previous thing that the coach did with their regime, they're going to destroy it and they're going to build and they're going to establish something. These are, they're alphas. That's just kind of, these are alpha coaches. These are huge personalities. Joe Brady he's quiet, doesn't he minds his own business, and again he's more of a guy that's he's a schemer, right? He is a very very quiet individual, very very good for the organization. Not really going to say a lot of bad things, but he's not a culture shifter. So and the same thing with Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson is that style of coach. So I think
and Aaron
Aaron,
Glenn, Aaron Glenn.
Aaron Glenn, he gets into the office, does his thing, gets out. That's what Aaron Glenn. That's what he's a business. He's more business, more luxurious, compared to that blue collar sort of coach that a lot of people are trying to seek after. So that's that's kind of the danger of choosing a first kind of year head coach or
Yeah,
choosing a young mind that doesn't really have. They have a lot of promise, obviously, But in terms of just the amount of experience and being around NFL locker rooms, that is the question that I think that in terms of if I'm an owner, you know, culture, like was Dale saying, culture, having a guy that can potentially change the culture of my organization, oh, that has to matter.
Mark, have you ever talked to Aaron Glenn when he was a Jet player, when he was here?
Not one on one. Not one on one. It was like one of those situations where it was like a press conference type thing. Um, Covering the NFL is completely different than covering any other sport.
especially in New York.
Yeah, well, but it's like that everywhere. It's like that everywhere. The NFL controls the media access like no other league. So
But don't you think? Don't you? I'm sorry to interrupt,
no,
but don't you think they're harder on the Jets because they come from New York, the metropolitan
well, the media is.
media
The
center
media
of
is.
the country? It doesn't happen in Green Bay.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised if you. Um, Here's the thing: the fan base in Green Bay is a lot more. They're true believers type of situation. They don't necessarily want to read about the inside of the.
The soap opera. We got to stop the soap opera. I'm sorry.
Well, you know what it is, but that also starts with the soap opera stuff. I mean, a lot of it happens, and I hate to say this, but and that's why my media colleagues often get mad at me. It starts with you. You get so frustrated that there's no news that you start digging for nonsense. You know what I'm saying? You start digging and almost like a private investigator. Like you figure, oh, let me see how many pots can I stir before I get somebody to say something stupid that I could write about, right? And part of that is, you have to find that balance in the organization where you're going to be upfront and you're going to talk to the media in a way that's not lecturing, that's not you guys type of situation, so that you get the majority of the people that cover the team happy with what they're getting. That they're not being lied to, that they're not being misdirected, that they're not trying to be controlled. Every single person that is coming to New York, whether it's the NFL, whether it's the NBA, whether it's the Mets or the Yankees, every guy that's come in here and tried to, well, I'm gonna control this New York media. They take that as a challenge. They're like, okay, guy, bring it on. Instead of being smart, like Bill Parcells never took on the media. Bill Parcells just said what he had to say, and if you liked it, great, and if you didn't, I don't know what to tell you. And he had that. He had the loyalty of his staff. He had the loyalty of his players that will run through the wall for them. That's what the Jets have to find. They had, and look, it's harder than ever because a lot of coaches today are not built like Bill Belichick. Excuse me, Bill Parcells. Did
And
I say Bill?
Mark, even on the old videos, Parcells is like, "Oh, do you want to return punts or sit your ass down?"
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
do some of these coaches even talk like that anymore?
I,
Like,
well,
honestly,
I think that there is a fear with today's player, because today's player is a little bit more brand oriented.
Yeah, as a commodity.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, I'm not even. I I think that that's kind of where Belichick, and not Parcells, but Belichick discovered, once Brady left, that once you don't have that alpha that you can treat like everybody else, that megastar that you can treat like everybody else, once you don't have that anymore, it's very difficult to get the locker room to follow you. And
Do we have a consensus that we don't want Rex back?
I don't want him
I
back. I don't know
of any
many Jet
real
fans
Jet
that
fan.
want him back.
I don't know of any real Jet
Buckeye,
fan that wants
let
it.
me ask the Jet fans up. There's only a few up here. Carmen, do you want him back?
Absolutely not.
Buckeye?
I mean, the definition of insanity is to keep going back, and doing the
Yeah,
same
I
thing
don't want him
over and
back.
over again.
June, do you want him back?
No,
No,
nope,
right, June?
not at all.
I,
Right.
I'm a no on him and Aaron Glenn. I'm a hard no on both those dudes.
Why are you a hard no on Aaron Glenn?
Yeah,
I'm just
that's
curious. I'm just
Because,
curious.
well, Mark, you said something. You need to see who the coordinators are. So I need to hear right away the pairing of the OC, because we just suffered through Salah with lack of offense, and that's what the Jets have been suffering for years with, is the offense. The offense has been a thorn in the side. And I'm not going to do something where it's Aaron Glenn and some first time OC that he's selling us. Well, he's not going to sell anything. He's just going to pick who he's going to pick.
Right.
And then these
No,
guys duck
that
away that it's like, well, I'm not, I'm a defensive guy. No, you're a head coach.
that makes sense. That makes
So
sense.
we have been watching putrid offense for too many years.
Yep.
It's time we get an innovative offensive mind. And I think there's more pick of the litter of DCs out there than OCs. I think
we.
it's harder to
I
get an
think that's the
OC than
way
it
it's
is a
been.
DC.
I think that's the way it's been for a few years now. You know.
Yes. So I'd rather play my odds
Well, there's no
that I get.
excuse, and there's no excuse when you have talent, on the offensive side of the ball. There's no excuse for not finding ways to get everybody involved and to have an offense that has more than one look. The Hackett offense, I thought that was a terrible hire from the very beginning. And, a lot of it was, it was Aaron Rodgers, but, it was before Aaron Rodgers came here. And maybe,
But he doubled down, Mark, on the offensive line coach.
right. Right.
Salah just got the coaching wrong, and that's where he needed the most help. He
Right.
desperately needed that help. And by the way, I would have been okay if they offered Arthur Smith the OC job, but to bring him in as the backup to Hackett is like, there's no way he was going to take that job.
He's,
And by the way, Arthur Smith is a hell no to me too as a head
yeah,
coach.
no,
No,
you don't want him. Trust me.
no.
You don't want
Does everybody agree Hackett gave up the last 6 months of the season? He was walking dead.
Well, I mean, I'm not around the team. I'm obviously the results matter and the results speak for themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, now you want me to be a media guy and say that a coach gave up, you get me in trouble. But no, I think results matter. This is professional football. It's not college. You're not trying to build you're trying to build a successful football organization that that can win and be sustainable, right?
You know,
Because then if
if
you build a sustainable program, then you can bring guys in every year. You can make a deal for a punt returner. You can bring in a center. You can bring in different players to plug in because you already have a successful program. And that's the thing that the Jets haven't had since Bill Parcells.
and Greg the Leg cost us 4 to 5 games. Why didn't we have a backup kicker?
That you're not the only one who's bemoaning.
He was
We had the
automatic.
best. We had the best kicker in preseason. We let
I
him go.
know, I know.
Mark, I will admit this. My co-host June said something in the preseason, and I thought he was nuts because Zerline was basically coming off 2 career years in a row.
Right.
So, I mean, Mark, how could you get rid of a guy or even be concerned? In my opinion, that's just me. And man, Zerline did cost the Jets a lot of games this year. It was brutal, man.
You could see he lost his confidence, and we never went out and got a backup until the end of the year.
And now more than ever, I think that the kicking game is so important because it's harder. It's harder.
If you look, the games are decided by 6 or less points.
It's harder. If Young Ho Koo, if he didn't get hurt for the Falcons, if he didn't get hurt, he had his worst year and he was hurt. And
Yeah.
because they didn't have a backup, a competent backup, how they probably lost like 4 games
At
lost
least.
playoffs.
How many games did we lose in the fourth quarter? We always found a way to lose.
So, that's an incredibly important part of the game that it seems like this coaching staff, for the Jets and this organization, uh, almost it almost thought that that was like kind of an automatic rather than identifying it as an incredibly important part of the offense. And I don't think drafting a kicker early is the answer, but you got to make sure that your kicking game, your punter, your kicker are top level, like special. That's part of special teams. It's part of the offense. It's part of the defense. You know, it's incredibly important to have those that kicker be someone that you can be like, okay, I have confidence that even if we go for it here on third down, that we can bring in our kicker and that's going to be 3 points. But you couldn't do that with the Jets this year, and that,
No,
that
Yep.
just deflates. That deflates the whole team.
it deflates the whole team. Exactly.
Office, jump in.
Thanks, buddy. Mark, in your opinion, right? And let me just paint a quick little picture. I think when you mentioned, oh damn it, um, when you mentioned the offense, right? Like, do you see a lot of the teams are kind of built from defense to offense? I mean, I can understand why the Jets would want a more prolific offense. You know what I'm saying? But in the end of the day, the defense really let them down.
The
And all
defense
the
was the problem.
okay, well, that's right, sir. And what I'm getting at is
I'm sorry. I,
down here we had Justin Tucker not playing well, but Lamar stepped up because our culture is strong and said, it's up to me to not have to leave it up to him. And that's where you want to see the Jets change gears in their culture, right? Because, I mean, it comes down to the kicker, but it ain't the kicker's fault to a degree, right? Like the offense stumbled somewhere, and there's a lot of room for improvement for the Jets. I don't think their offense is their problem.
no, the defense. They need some. They need meat in the middle of the offensive line. They were run
And that's
against
okay.
all year long.
They'll get it. They'll get that, like the man was saying. They're going to find those pieces. But the defense, that's where you guys struggle because you were winning some football games, dude.
That's what.
Championship teams are built on defense. Offense just complements, unless you're a West Coast team.
I think that what you really want is balance. You know, I think anytime you concentrate on one side of the ball, and I don't think the Jets are in a position, and I'm not trying to rebut you. All I'm saying is that when you're building a team, especially a team that is lost, they are lost. The Jets are lost. Okay, they're lost as a fan base. They're lost as an organization. They're lost just across the board. Cannot get out of their own way. Um, Obviously, yes, you want a coach that's going to look at the defense and say, okay, we've got some pieces there, we've got some talent there. It's going to be my job to either be on top of that defense or make sure that I hire a coordinator that gets that talent squared away. But you can't, because that was Rex's problem. Okay, all the people that Rex, that was Rex's problem. You know, he was a defensive guy. He had energy.
Carmen, turn your TV down, bro.
You know,
I
he had
I did. I did.
he had some guys that he coached before, whatever. But then the offensive side of the ball was kind of like an afterthought with Rex, right? So, and it was like the offense served as the game manager for the defense. I don't think you want that. What you want is you want an offense that can run the ball and throw the ball, right? And not go three and out because then the defense gets tired. I don't care how many defensive stars you have. I don't care how much talent you have on defense. You keep going three and out, you keep going three and out. That defense is going to get tired and they're going to lose their energy in the second half of games. You have to have both sides of
Yep.
the ball be able to execute. And that's
Mark, it was the opposite last year.
right.
That's what happened last year. The defense was frustrated. All we listen, Mark, I'll admit this. All I said was give me Aaron Rodgers at 60% with that defense, and I'll take my chances with the Jets. Because to me, Mark, if they played anywhere near last year with Rodgers the way he played this year, let's just say, I still think they had a shot. But their defense just crumbled.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yep.
From 23 to 24, absolutely.
And Petey, he mentioned recently, Aaron Rodgers mentioned, and I believe this part from him. I know he throws some shade out there, but he actually said after that, horrific injury, he said the last 4 or 5 games, he actually felt physically like a football player. I'm not saying it's going to last forever either, but
Yeah.
like he said, he felt better, and
Well, it
that
takes
probably took
office. It,
that
it,
long.
it office. It take. Listen again, Mark. I don't know if I've ever told you, but I ruptured my Achilles. And listen, I'm not a professional athlete, but it takes a full year of playing to get back to sort of where you were, if you ever do get back to where you were. And I don't think Rodgers was there till
Of
the
course
end.
not. Neither was Kirk Cousins, and that's why Kirk Cousins fell apart. That's why you don't give a ton of money to a guy coming off an Achilles injury. Now with the Jets, Rodgers for an older guy keeps himself in fantastic shape, and even he wasn't right, to start the season. But again, what were you going to do? You're going to bench him? Can't bench him for Tyrod Taylor. Can't do that. So
Right.
he had to play it out. Problem
Yeah,
is
Mark.
that the defense, like you guys said, the defense fell apart and could not support the offense when it needed it the most.
Mark, real quick. I don't think Rodgers, if and when he does leave, I don't see him trashing the Jets. And if he does, then it's going to change my thought process on him because they bent over backwards for him. Do you
I
think he's going to trash them?
I don't think so.
I don't think
He
that's
might
his
trash.
character.
He might have things to say, but again, like if you're a Jet fan, who do you even care? Like, do you even care if Aaron Rodgers leaves? Like, do you even
Yes,
care?
Mark, I do. I do. I'm
I don't.
sorry. Yes, I do, Mark. You know why? I'm tired of this. Just like you said, our fan base, what'd you say before? Our fan base is in disarray. Is that what
Lost.
you said?
Everybody's lost right now.
Yeah,
Everybody's lost.
it sucks. I don't want that shit, to
I
be
don't think.
honest,
I
Mark.
don't think it's
Excuse
going
me.
to happen, but you never know. With a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who just kind of.
Petey, speaking of lost, where's Mark Torres?
He was here the other day, Dale.
And I asked a quick question to Mark.
Yeah, go ahead.
What type of season, just say some things go right for the Jets, in the draft and so on, right, Mark? And, they get the coach that they believe is their guy, right? When you get into next season, do you want to see more of like what type of season would you realistically expect out of the Jets kind of transitioning into all these things, right? Like would you think 500, slightly below that? I mean, it's definitely a capable team. I mean, I thought and Jets and Bills people are my cousins. I'm a Baltimore Raven guy, born and bred here, but do you realistically think that they can, they should be able to have a competitive season, right?
If you get
How do you feel about that?
get the
They
right
should win 10, 11 games.
if you get the right coach with the right coordinators, you have a good draft. There certainly is enough talent there that they could be a 500 team. I don't see any reason why. And that's not a high expectation. That's just expected. I think that's expected for a team that has this much talent. For a team that, let's be honest, the biggest complaint that Jet fans and the media had all year about the Jets is that they were poorly coached in every facet of the game. Would you guys agree with that?
100%.
Right. So if you
Yes.
address that problem and you hire the right people and you have a good draft, there's no reason why they can't turn it around in 1 year and at least be competitive. 8 and 9, 9 and 8. Why not? And if they get lucky, maybe 10 wins. But that's how you have to think about it because let's be honest, the last couple of years it's been Super Bowl or bust, and then Rodgers gets hurt, season falls apart. Um, the expectations I don't think were Super Bowl this season, but certainly playoff team,
Deep into the playoffs.
right? Playoff team. That's what everybody thought. Aaron Rodgers is back. There's talent on that defense. You got Brees Hall coming back. He's going to be 100%. You got Garrett Wilson, great receiver who puts up numbers despite the fact that, you know, he had terrible quarterbacks. I think the expectation of being a playoff team was certainly, that's what I said.
Realistic.
That's what I said. I said, look, I'm not picking them to go to the Super Bowl because I got to see how this offensive line plays for Aaron Rodgers coming off an injury. It's exactly what I said. I said, but I expect them to be a team that makes the playoffs. And not that
Because I figured
great,
they'd be.
not
Sorry.
some great, prognosticator or anything like that. But that was my expectation. I think that's what Jet fans certainly felt, and I don't think they were being unrealistic either. So I don't think there's any question if they hire the right coach. And look, it's going to become the first 4 games. I always feel like the first 4 or 5 games, they may not dictate how your season's going to go, but if you're competitive over that first part of the season, and let's say you're 1-4 or 2-3. If you're competitive, that sets the tone, not the one-loss record. And I think that's where the Jets are right now. They have to set the tone right away. And that means you got to hire the right coach. You got to have a good draft. You can't do anything stupid. You can't draft guys and well, we outsmarted everybody by picking this guy. That's like typical loser behavior, where you think you're gonna, become a playoff team after a season like this. You got to keep your expectations to. I want a competitive product. I want good, solid players that are going to add to what we're doing. I want a coach that's going to add to the culture and make us look smarter and not make us look like the hacks that we've had here for the last 5 or 6 years. That's what I think is possible for this organization. But again, it just seems like with the Mets sometimes it's LOL Jets or same old Jets all the time. And that's the challenge. That's the challenge that everyone in this organization right now is facing. And that's why it's so critical to hire the right people. And the Jets haven't done it for a long time.
Yep.
Haven't done it,
Heck,
for a long time.
Hexagon, go ahead. Morning.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Mark, real quick. So you said to yourself, an Achilles usually takes an entire year to heal. So because of that fact, because the fact that Rodgers finished eighth in the league in total yards, because of the fact that he still has Wilson and Wilson caught over 100 catches this year, because he has Adams and the connection that he has with Adams, because he still has Hall, because the offensive line kind of got injured towards the end of the year, because the defense got exposed and wasn't as good as advertised, because the special teams was so horrible in the beginning of the year. Why is it that we can't run a semblance of this offense back the same as is, with tweaks, of course, where needed, but specifically with Rodgers coming back a year after an Achilles injury, with a better coach, and coaching was everything, with better special teams, with better defense, and that same cast. Why is it that that team can't run it back next year and be in the playoffs?
I think that I'm with Pete and with a lot of you guys. I'd bring back Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers right now, if you're like some people talk about a bridge quarterback, maybe going after Kirk Cousins, I would say don't do that. And I love Kirk, but he just clearly could not make the throws that were needed. And when you're talking about a bridge quarterback, you're talking about a guy who's probably not a starter. You're probably talking about a guy who is like a swing guy. I don't think I think the Jets would be dumb to not want to try to bring Aaron Rodgers back, but I don't think that's the case. I think that Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be up to him whether or not he wants to play for another season. And if he does, he probably, right as of right now, I don't see any reason to think that that couldn't be the case, right? But I'm. You don't have to change my opinion. If Aaron Rodgers is an option, I bring him back.
There's one curveball though. There is absolutely a problem between him and Garrett Wilson. And Garrett has not openly talked about it. I don't even know if he ever does, but I'm not going to have one more year of Aaron Rodgers to have this completely fall apart for probably the best player on our team.
But wait, and he still caught over 100 catches. That's a great problem to have. Like we can solve that. We can try and solve that, right? He still caught over
Yeah,
100
but we can't
catches.
solve that.
Can't be that
That's
bad.
got to be Aaron and Garrett have to solve that.
But when does Aaron ever want to solve something that is someone else's problem?
Well,
Like when?
maybe having one more year in the sun will change his mind. That's what you got to hope for. I mean, because you're not getting rid of Garrett Wilson to pacify Aaron Rodgers. That would be that. Would be
But that's where we went wrong. We did all that with Hackett and everything else to
right.
pacify Aaron
That
Rodgers. So look, there is one element which I'm all about not Aaron Rodgers anymore, but no say in coordinators, no say in coaching, no say in play style, no say like there's elements that I looked at and I'll just point to the delay of games. I can't for the life of me understand what was going on with the delay of games for a guy 20 years in the league that he was doing over. Like, I don't understand what that was. And it was happening. I'm going to say we probably had the most delay of games via the quarterback than every team in the league. And I don't know the stat, but I've got to believe it's not even close.
Hey, can did we not see the expressions on his face sometimes when he was looking at the sidelines like, yo, let's call this play, like, what are we doing, hurry up? I mean, that's all coaching, bro. That, to me, that was all the coaching. They didn't have a clue of what they were doing.
So you
Well,
feel the Devontae Adams targeting was all coaching? Like, you think that was all coaching?
I got to be honest. I kind of think that when there's a disconnect between the quarterback and the offensive coordinator, or the play caller, or whatever, I do think that when you're a quarterback and you want to be successful and you want to win games, that you're going to go with the guy that is going to catch certain balls. I'm not saying it's right. Okay, I'm not saying it's correct. What I'm saying is, just think about how veterans act. When a veteran has a guy that he knows and that he trusts, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe he doesn't trust Garrett Wilson. Maybe there's a reason why he doesn't trust Garrett Wilson. Maybe there's a reason Garrett Wilson doesn't trust Aaron Rodgers.
But Mark, who has he ever trusted besides his crew?
Well, that's
Like even
then.
LaFleur. LaFleur is obviously a really good head coach.
Then that's
He butt heads with him beyond belief.
well, again, that has to again be part of the decision making process. Whether or not you bring Aaron Rodgers back, maybe the Jets are ready to move on. They haven't said it publicly. Aaron Rodgers hasn't said it publicly, but we're just throwing spitballs out. Trying to say, well, who do we want? You're not bringing Sam Darnold back. I don't think he wants any part of the Jets. Myself, I always loved that kid, and I feel I'm happy that he's been successful. I hate the Vikings, so I'm not really that happy for him, but I'm happy for him that he found success. But look at Baker Mayfield. When you think about a guy who got kicked around, a guy who, he was drafted number one overall, but he got kicked around and finally found a home in Tampa, much to my chagrin. So, you know, um, sometimes you're going to find a quarterback that maybe you didn't necessarily look. And the Jets are in a position right now where they can't be picky and choosy. They can't be like, well, we can't hand our offense over to, whoever. Tyrod Taylor is a solid backup. Um, but if you're starting your season with Tyrod Taylor as your starting quarterback, I don't think you're serious about doing what we said, which is trying to contend right away and turn this thing around.
I think we can all agree, though, let's get the coach right
Yeah,
and let the coach decide who the quarterback is. If it's
absolutely.
Aaron, then it's
Yeah,
Aaron. If it's not Aaron, it's not Aaron.
and let's
I,
be honest too. Ownership has to be behind whatever that coach's decision is. Ownership can't say, "Well, look, we give you the job. You got to make Aaron your starting quarterback." That's the case.
that's true.
that's what Woody's done in the past.
Exactly. So that's why I'm saying, let's not do that again. Let's not.
So, Mark, you don't think Woody's asked these candidates? I'm sorry to just
No, I'm sure.
jump in
I'm
here,
sure
but
he has. I'm sure he has.
yeah,
Maybe the response is, I'm going to share a story, right? So, when Wally Backman interviewed for the Mets manager job that he didn't get, they asked him, about who did he want his pitching coach to be? Who did he want, And his thing was, look, I, I'm not going to get into who he wanted or whatever, but his thing was, and he was very honest about it. He said, look, he goes, if you guys want to give me the lineup, if you want to do your sabermetrics and you want to do all that stuff and tell me, who to play, when to play, I'll certainly be on board with discussing that. He said, but I'm only going to take this job if I can manage the bullpen 7, 8, 9 the way I feel that it needs to be executed. I don't want to be told who I'm pitching in the seventh, eighth, and ninth. I don't want to be told who's available that day. If I talk to a pitcher and he's available, he's got to be available. And that's one of the reasons he didn't get the job, because Sandy Alderson wanted to control that aspect of the game. So uh, that's how these interviews go, right? Either the owner or the GM. Since we don't have a GM, it's probably going to be the owner or whatever person's in that room is going to ask those questions. But asking those questions is only as important as how influential those answers are going to be. What you should be looking for as an owner or as a GM when you're hiring a coach is, I want honesty in that room. Don't tell me what I want to hear. You may say something that we haven't thought of.
I don't think the owners allow the interviews to go that way.
And Woody is not a football guy.
No, but he's still the owner.
Yeah.
Mark, when the Giants were interviewing, I think it was McAdoo, and they were stuck on, we still believe in Eli. I don't think any candidate could have walked into that room and said, I'm the right guy for the job, but Manning is not going to be back. It's not it. And here's why. Like, I think you had to say, I'm going to run it back with Manning.
Right. And how'd that work out?
It worked out the way it always works out for these owners that shove shit down these candidates' throat. Like, I just feel in interviewing,
I would rather not get hired. I would rather not get hired. Okay. And I've been in this situation, not in sports, but certainly in my career, where, well, how do you envision this? And I'm like, well, I lost a job at SNY. I was up for the editor-in-chief job at SNY. And they were like, well, how do you envision, working with certain writers that don't fit their deadlines or, whatever. And I'm not going to say exactly who they were talking about, but, we'll leave that for another day. A football writer that you guys are very well aware that no longer works at SNY. And I said, well, if somebody's not making their deadline, I'll get somebody else. I said, you know how many people want a job in sports? Do you know how many hungry, talented people are out there that want this job? I said, you don't let people like that set the tone for your editorial content. I said, you set the tone. You're the editor in chief. What are you hiring me for? I'm not a babysitter. I said, and at that time, I was going up on my 20th year in media. I was like, I've been doing this for 20 years. It's not my first rodeo. I'm not gonna. So what? Some guy, covered the Giants for a bunch of years, and now he's slumming at SNY. So we're gonna kiss his ass? I don't think so. Right? You're better off. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, because everybody, the guy that got my job got fired within a year. You know what I'm saying? Because he said yes to all the things that they wanted. Yes, 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 yes. We'll do that. And if you have any semblance of integrity, and I'm not saying Woody does or doesn't. I don't know Woody Johnson. But if he really wants to be successful, he's better off hearing honesty in that room and making his decision based on that than
philosophically, yes,
having like
that's not what he's done.
having like a predetermined answers I want to hear, and that's the guy I want to hire.
You remember the Matt Rule thing? Like, they shoved Matt Rule wasn't, I think, in charge of the 53, right? Like, he wasn't. They were telling Rule, like, you can't do this and you can't have that, and he's like, I'm out of here.
Right.
And my question, which we don't know the answer, is, has Woody changed his stripes at all?
We don't know that.
Because he saddled people with DCs they didn't want, GMs they didn't want. And it's always about, for this, to get this job, there's only 32 of them. This is what you have to take. And he always finds a taker. There's always a taker for this.
Of course.
The question is he changing his stripes and letting experts be experts?
Well, that's always, that's always the magic bullet, right? That's always the magic bullet. We could only hope that someone is talking to him and say, look, your team sucks. Your organization sucks. Your fans are done. Fireman Ed is done. All these people are done with you. Like, the only way that you're going to get back on track and build something here is to get the right person in the room.
And Mark, there's in the history of sports, there's not a bigger dictator that made more mistakes than Steinbrenner. And somewhere along the line, Gene Michael came in and it changed. So maybe. And Dolan did it with the Knicks too.
And
Like
again,
And they did it with the Knicks, right?
the one thing,
Right.
well,
And if fellas, if I could elevate Mark's thought, if I may,
please,
I think Mark, where we just got the answer from your thought as far as Rex Ryan is, I think that's probably the main reason they brought Rex Ryan in for the interview more than anything, because he probably told them the truth and probably shouted out the array of things you just mentioned, fans, etc. Right? Like, they hate you, buddy. Like, they're trying to boot you. And just the second thought, that's probably why that orientation group was put together, right? Because you're going to have to break the ice with the manifesto that the owner hopefully gave them, because they're going to take the role of those GMs and stuff at the moment. You know what I'm saying? So if they don't fit the manifesto, it probably doesn't carry on. But I think that's why they brought Rex Ryan in, just to hear the truth from somebody.
That's the
I
only
think you
thing
hit the
that.
nail on the head, bro.
Yep. That's the only thing Woody did was bring in that was positive, brought in the 32nd team, so he can listen to
I
football
don't even
people.
know if that's right though. I mean,
Why?
we should have people that, that don't need a firm. I don't want that anymore. I'm tired of it.
What happened to years ago when we used to have a president of player personnel years and years ago? Was
Yeah,
that
I
is
mean,
that no longer
who was the president back in the day, Mark?
Kensel? Was it
No,
Kensel?
was it what was his name, Mark?
Kensel?
No,
K E
the
N.
the guy under Leon Hess, Mark.
All
What
right,
was
I'll
his
wait
name?
to say something to you, Petey. What
no,
up, nigga? They ain't
Yeah,
talking about shit.
I believe it was
T,
Kensel.
what up?
They ain't
no, it
talking
Hold
wasn't.
about
on,
It
T.
shit.
was another guy. There was another guy. I can't remember his name, but he was horrendous. He was horrendous, that
Yeah,
guy.
guy, in about 5 minutes, I'm going to close. I'm still not feeling good. So I tried to do
Let me
this
Pete?
today.
let me just say this one thing, okay, about interviews. And when you interview a bunch of different candidates, and everybody's like, "Oh, the Rooney Rule, they're doing this, they're doing that." One of the reasons you have a wide interview process, and again, I'm giving the Jets credit for this, but I don't know if they deserve it. But I'm just saying that one of the reasons you have all these interviews, right, is to gain not just perspective about that candidate coming into the room, but to hear from a lot of different voices to get the sense of, there's probably guys in that room. Maybe it's McCown. Probably guys that came into that room that they're like, you know what? Maybe not the head coach, but this guy would be a great offensive coordinator. Or I really like what this guy said. I mean, we're not going to hire him, but I really liked what he said about drafting, a tight end or vice versa. And that's one of the reasons you open up the interview, because then, maybe somebody who you didn't even think had a shot at the job, all of a sudden, wow, I really like what that guy had to say. So that's part of that interview process, I think, that a lot of people forget. They only focus on who are the names they've actually heard of, or they see an offensive coordinator from somewhere and they just go look up at the offensive stats. They don't know they don't know the coordinator, but they're like, oh, let me look up at the stats. Oh, they were 12th. Let's hire him. We know nothing, right? As fans, how the process is going to go. So I think what you have to hope for is that what people talked about before. You're hoping that Woody has finally understood that they've hit bottom, and that now he has to understand that a drastic change has to happen.
Yep. Mark, I'm gonna shut it down, guys.
All right,
I
Pete, feel
usually
better, buddy.
stay
Feel
yeah, I usually stay open till
Feel better,
10,
bud.
but I want
Feel
to get some
better.
rest and appreciate all you guys. June, thank you. Carmen, Mark,
Thank
as
you.
always, thanks for the unexpected jump in. Mark, appreciate you, man. You're a
hey,
class act.
Feel better.
Feel better. Feel better.
Always
Buckeye.
great talking with all you guys. Take care.
Yeah,
Feel
Mark,
better.
and hopefully we get some Mets news soon, Mark.
Let's go Broncos.
You guys are getting Verdugo.
Oh,
No, no.
please.
Don't say
No, Mark, put an end to that.
Why would you even speak that into existence?
He's a Yankee fan, Mark. That's
Every
why.
Yankee.
But
Boo,
every
boo,
Yankee
boo,
fan
boo.
that wants him off his team, so he wants to, slough him off to us. No foisting. No, thank you. No
You think we
foisting.
overpaid for
He's got a
Soto?
nice chain. Good luck.
Yeah,
It's
Mark.
not my money. It's not my money. I want Soto on this team. I really don't care how much he gets paid.
Neither do I.
I said this before. I don't care how much anybody gets paid. Just
Just produce.
just get the team I want. That's all. Just get the team squared away. I don't want to hear about, oh, we'll tweak in this and we'll tweak in that. Just get your team. You're gonna make deals. You're gonna do what you got to do. But just enough already. You know what I'm saying? Like, just I don't care how much Pete Alonso gets paid. He either wants to be here or he doesn't. Right? I
Yep.
Totally agree.
I don't care how much
Agree.
he gets paid, but he either wants to be here or he doesn't. So figure it out and let's move on.
Speaking of here, I'll be here tomorrow morning, guys.
All right,
Have a
brother.
good day.
See you,
Okay.
Petey.
Be well.
Everybody have a safe day. It was nice speaking with all of yous.